Okay, welcome back to you guys. Nice to see everyone back from your break. I'm going to move on with sharing this topic with you about identifying cravings, cultivating non-craving, and analysis of the mind. This is something you're going to need to be able to cultivate as a quality that you're going to need to practice, where you can look inward and be introspective and reflective to be able to identify your own cravings. Because the things that I've taught so far with like the Eightfold Path, that's going to generally train your mind to eliminate all cravings, desires, attachments, where the mind's not longing, yearning, and chasing after things, because that's what's causing your discontentedness. But there's going to be times where you need to look and see what are the specific cravings, because then you can do certain things that are going to almost surgically go in and remove them. So I'm going to teach you this topic and help you guys to be able to see how to do this. And then at the end, we'll do like a little group activity if you guys would like, and I'll open up to helping you guys to be able to develop this. But before we start talking about identifying your cravings, let's just be sure that you guys understand what a craving, desire, attachment is, because some of you guys were here yesterday when we were talking about this and some of you weren't. So a craving, desire, attachment, wants, expectation, grasping, holding, clinging, this is the mind's longing for something with a strong eagerness, chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. The mind is typically experiencing in the unenlightened state some level of discontentedness, like say some painful feeling, like you might be sad or angry or frustrated or irritated. And your mind's like, what do I need to fix this? And the mind will like crave and long and yearn. It's like, oh, I need a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That's what'll fix this. Let me get one of those. And now the mind will kind of chase after that. And then you'll get a boyfriend or girlfriend, and then you'll feel maybe happy for a period of time, but then that'll fade away. And then the mind's like, what do I need here? I need some more money. That's what'll fix everything. Let me chase after that. And now you chase after that money for a little while, right? And then you'll get happy with that for a period of time, but then that'll fade away too. And it's like, what do I need? Oh, a new car, a new job, a new house. The mind will long and yearn and try to form its inner feelings based on acquiring this thing. And if it gets this thing, then you'll experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, then your mind will end up in the painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, things like this. So it's this craving, desire, attachment in the mind pulling towards the objects of its affection, which is the craving, desire, attachment. It's like the mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So it chases and chases and chases and chases and chases. And then it's going to form its inner feelings based on whether it gets that thing or not. If it gets it, pleasant feelings. If it doesn't, painful feelings. But even if you get the pleasant feelings, those fade because you're basing your pleasant feelings on some condition. So for example, if it's sunny outside and you get so happy and excited, well, as soon as it starts raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if you get happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be frustrated because your mind doesn't like that change. It doesn't like impermanence. It craves permanence. And you live in an impermanent world. That's the funny thing about the unenlightened mind, is it really wants permanence, and it doesn't even realize that it lives in an impermanent world. It just keeps craving this permanence over and over and over again. It's basically trying to fulfill an unattainable goal. It's like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has to just crave and crave and crave and crave and crave. More jewelry, more clothes, more friends, more this, more that. Right? So this is the problem in the mind, is the discontentedness. The cause of that problem is craving, desire, attachment. Right? The discontentedness is the mind experiencing conditioned feelings. The pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and the neither painful nor pleasant are discontentedness. That the mind can only be happy if you have these certain criteria met. And this is where your happiness shrinks. So as long as you keep allowing your mind to form these inner feelings based on some condition, you'll get happy when you get it, but waiting right around the corner is the painful feelings. So if you get so happy when you get a brand new job, Well, when you lose that job 5 years from now, you'll be sad, you'll be frustrated, right? So you need to be able to see all three of these conditioned feelings as part of the problem, because the enlightened mind is beyond this. You're experiencing unconditioned mental qualities where the mind's always happy, it's always cheerful, it's always glad, it's always joyful, and there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that to occur. Where in the unenlightened state, it's only when you get what you want that you can actually be happy. And that's because of the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning. So this is what the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate, is not the object itself, but the longing, yearning for the object. So I'm going to teach you how to do this. So this craving, desire, attachment is something we talked about as part of the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires, and also part of the 4 noble truths as the cause of discontentedness. And it's always important to remember that breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity are the general trainings that are really targeting craving, desire, attachment, and training your mind to let go. As we were talking yesterday, and even today, we were talking about how breathing mindfulness meditation trains your mind to let go. And generosity does that too, because the mind will become selfish and hold on to things very tightly, and it won't want to share with others. But when you're giving and sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return, this will train your mind to let go, because you're living open-handedly. So you'd like to have this as an ongoing practice, your breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. The Buddha teaches you to practice this daily, the meditation and generosity too, that you're practicing generosity daily, frequently practicing generosity, because that's what's going to help you train your mind to let go. The Buddha also describes craving, desire, attachment as the fuel that causes rebirth. Now, I know many of you guys causes rebirth. Now, I know many of you guys haven't independently verified the cycle of rebirth in the 5 realms of existence. The Buddha teaches the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. But you can independently verify this. You might not have the wisdom of how to independently verify it right now, but in volume 11, chapter 105 of this book series that I share, I put 17 different criteria of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because it's usually approached much later in your development on the path to enlightenment. But just understand the same cause that's leading to your discontentedness is the same cause that's leading to rebirth, that it's craving, desire, attachment. That's why by the time someone gets to enlightenment, they've eliminated all their craving, desire, attachments. They're no longer longing, yearning for things. They're just gradually working towards things with ambition and enthusiasm and motivation, but they're not forming their inner feelings on those things. And they can see that their mind is completely peaceful and joyful because they're not experiencing those discontent feelings any longer. And you can gradually see your mind moving in that direction as you're making your way on the path. So when you're eliminating your craving, desire, attachment, not only are you eliminating the discontentedness, but you're eliminating the causes and conditions that produce rebirth. This is why an enlightened being doesn't experience rebirth. Right now, you might not have memories of your past lives, but as you're lifting this pollution out of your mind, there's a potential that you might experience this. So this is one of the reasons why the Buddha taught it, is because this is the truth of what's actually really occurring. Right now, you might be believing you only have one life, but that's probably because you haven't really observed your past lives yet, and you haven't done this other work to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But as this pollution is lifting out of your mind, if you start having vivid memories of your past lives, you can just understand that that's in the past and stay focused on training your mind in this life. So the same cause and condition that produces discontentedness is the same thing that's causing rebirth, and that's why by the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience continued existence in the cycle of rebirth. The Buddha leaves it as an undeclared teaching, what happens next for an enlightened being. This path to enlightenment isn't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. That's not what this is. This is about training your mind now in this life to get to a wonderful life now. In this life, get to the ideal life now, right? No need to wait to get to the peace and joy when you die. That's too late. If you believed wrongly How do you know, right? You're not going to know until you die. It's too late. So while you're alive, the Buddha is guiding you towards this improved mental state and this improved life so you can create the ideal life now. And you'll be able to see that that's occurring because the condition of your mind's improving, your relationships are improving, and you'll be able to see you're gradually making your way to that. And you'll know that not only are you eliminating the cause of discontentedness, but you're eliminating the cause of rebirth as well. So he never taught to long and yearn for this afterlife. He taught you to get to peace and joy now in the present moment. So he left it as an undeclared teaching what may or may not happen next once you die as an enlightened being. He made it very clear that if you're unenlightened and you die, you'll experience rebirth. But if you are enlightened and die, he left it as an undeclared teaching. So he's not waving a little carrot and say, hey, come do all this stuff, and then you're going to get this wonderful thing after this life. He's like, no, learn these things now, and you're going to experience a wonderful life now in this life. So that's what you ultimately are working towards. So I share this with you because we're talking about craving, desire, attachment. When we talk about the mind performing optimally, you guys have heard me talk about this in terms of enlightenment, that by the time you eliminate the pollutions of the mind's going to be focused. You're going to have clarity, deep memory. You're going to have all these qualities that are in the mind. You're going to notice that your personal, professional relationships are improving. You're going to notice that you're not even in a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. The way that that's happening is through the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. So oftentimes people think it's the meditation that's producing the concentration. It's actually not. The meditation is training your mind to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment. And it's the elimination of craving, desire, attachment that produces the concentration and the focus and the clarity and the deep memory. Because when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, it's going to pull you in all these different directions. It's going to pull you towards this and that and this and that. It's almost like if you had animals that were tied to, had a rope around their neck and they were tied together, and they would be pulling each other in all these different directions. So if you had like an alligator and a dog and a snake and a bird and all these different animals, and they were tied with a rope around their neck and there was a knot in the middle, whichever one of them is the strongest, it would pull in that direction. So if the alligator is the strongest, it's going to pull all the other animals in that direction. So with craving, desire, attachment in your mind, it's going to be pulling you in all these different directions. But what the Buddha is teaching you how to do is learn how to restrain the mind and pull the mind back, right? So this craving, desire, attachment, when it's pulling in all these different directions, you'll lack concentration. You'll lack focus and memory and clarity of mind because your mind's longing, yearning, right? Maybe you go to the mall to purchase a new pair of shoes, and all of a sudden you see this beautiful woman or this handsome man, and now your mind's being pulled in that direction. Or you smell this perfume coming out of a store, and now you're being pulled in that direction. Or you see this food, this new restaurant that opened up, and now you're being pulled in that direction, right? Your mind's kind of being pulled in all these different directions because of contact through your sense bases, your eyes, ears, nose, your tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. Your mind's going to be pulling in all these different directions. So by getting rid of craving, desire, attachment, your mind's not pulling in all these different directions, and you can be focused. You can have concentration and you can have clarity. So getting rid of these cravings, desires, attachments are going to help you to cultivate wholesome qualities of mind, ultimately eliminating discontentedness, but also eliminating the causes and conditions that produce rebirth. Because as long as you're holding on to this world and you're craving to exist in this world, you're holding on, you're going to keep coming back over and over and over again, right? So that's what the Buddha is helping you to eliminate, where you can be completely peaceful and joyful in the present moment, and your mind's not longing, yearning for something else. Because that's what craving, desire, attachment will do for you. It's kind of like the grass is greener on the other side. The mind's always wanting to get to the other side. It's never content with where it's at. It's always got to be on the next side. And it gets over to the other side of the fence and it's like, wow, the grass is just as green over here as it is over there. Why did I come over here? That was a lot of work to get over here. And now you're on that side and you're like, oh, this grass doesn't look so green after all. Now let me go over here. Let me go over there. Let me go over here. Let me go over there. The mind's always wanting to go somewhere. And that's the pulling in all these different directions. So there's a way to eliminate this from the mind where you can be peaceful and joyful in the present moment, working towards goals, objectives, and interests, being motivated, having ambition, but doing so based in wise decision making rather than craving, desire, attachment. Because when you're operating through craving, desire, attachment, it's this selfishness in the mind. The mind's wanting these pleasant feelings, and it has this selfishness. But when you can learn to walk towards certain goals and objectives through wise decision making, now you can be peaceful and you can be joyful, gradually making your way towards that. Okay, so this is what craving, desire, attachment is. Do you guys have any questions on this? I know some of you guys weren't here yesterday, so I'd like to be sure you guys understand this. You guys understand craving, desire, attachment? The longing, the yearning. It's not the object itself, right? Let me share this with you guys, because people oftentimes ask me this. It's not the object itself, okay? Let's just say I was going on a hike and I had a liter of water in the car, and I'm driving down the road and I get to the trail and I go out on the trail, 30, 45 minutes down the trail, and I'm like, water, I forgot my water. It's in the car. Oh my goodness. And now I run back to the car and I'm hurrying up to get back to the car. And now I twist my ankle. I sling open the door to the car. Water, right? In this situation, I'm attached to the water. I'm having craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning for the water to be permanent. But I could also be out on the trail, 30 or 45 minutes down the trail, and be like, I forgot my water. I should probably turn around and go get that, because I'm going to be out here for like 6 or 8 hours. Let me go get my water. And now I can calmly make my way back to the car. I can open the door. I can get the water, and then I can go on my hike, right? So the object is the same. It's a liter of water. But in the two situations, the first person has craving, and that's why their mind was shaken up. It was unsteady. It was unstable. And they tried to hurry up and get back to the car, and even twisting their ankle along the way. This is the unwholesome results, or the unwholesome karma that they experience. Where the second person, object was exactly the same, but the difference was that they didn't have a craving in their mind. Right? So it's not the object itself that is the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way that the mind longs and yearns for it, wanting it to be permanent. So sometimes when people hear me say eliminating craving, desire, attachment, they're like, what does that mean? Does that mean I just sit around and I don't want to do anything, and I just sit around like lackluster and lazy and lethargic? No, that's what the unenlightened mind does. The unenlightened mind will chase and chase and chase and chase and chase with craving, desire, attachment. And then when it's not doing that, it'll be exhausted, and it'll swing all the way over here to the other side where you're dull and lethargic and perhaps feeling lazy even, right? So that's two opposite sides of the spectrum. The Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually work towards things with ambition, with enthusiasm, as a goal, as an objective or interest, but you're doing it through wise decision making, not through longing, yearning, and forming your inner feelings based on whether you accomplish this thing or not. If you ask me, the Buddha was one of the most ambitious and motivated people in the world. To think 2,500 years ago, this individual spoke a very regional language that was only in that region of the world, and his ambition was, I'm going to spread these teachings throughout the entire world, right? He couldn't even travel the entire world at that point in time, 2,500 years ago. And this language that he spoke in was only known by that region of people. It wasn't even the entire world that understood the language that he spoke in, but yet he had that goal, right? And he knew it wasn't going to happen during his lifetime, right? So he knew he was working towards a goal that he was never going to see the accomplishing of that goal, because it wasn't during his lifetime that it was actually going to occur. So he was working towards a goal that he would never obtain during his lifetime, but he could maintain his contentedness and happiness. That's what you need to learn how to do, is work towards a goal, not knowing whether you're going to ever actually accomplish it or not, but maintain your peace and maintain your joy. And you're working towards this goal through wise decision making, not through trying to get to these pleasant feelings. If you're working towards something and you get happy if you get it, and you get sad if you don't get it, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's a longing and a yearning masquerading as a goal. If you have a true goal and you're making your way towards it, let's just say you're 80% of the way there, you could look at it and be like, I haven't gotten to this goal yet. I could extend my timeline and give me more time to get to it, or I could add more resources to give me the ability to meet this goal. Or, you know what? 80% is fine. I'm fine with the 80%. I don't need to go any further. And you can maintain your happiness. You can maintain your joy. But if you can only be happy if you get 100% of the way, you're not going to get 100% of the way with every single goal, because that would be permanence. So you're setting yourself up and sabotaging your mind to experience discontentedness if you can only be happy if you get your goal met. Because it's not possible for you to accomplish every single goal. So you're going to need to learn how to work towards a goal, realizing that you may or may not accomplish it. And you're going to use wise decision making. You're not motivated based in, I really want to get these pleasant feelings. That's what the mind's usually chasing after, is the pleasant feelings. Okay, so this is what a craving, desire, attachment is. The mind longing, yearning, and pulling towards the object of its affection. And it can only be happy if it gets what it wants. And if it doesn't get it, then it feels the painful feelings. So the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate these, because that's the number one goal on the path to enlightenment, is to eliminate discontentedness. So because craving, desire, attachment is the cause of discontentedness, the number one goal is to eliminate the craving, desire, attachment. And you're going to need to cultivate wisdom to be able to do that. But how could you eliminate craving, desire, attachment if you didn't know how to identify them? You're going to need to identify the exact cravings that are in your mind, right? These other teachings, they're kind of helping you to generally train your mind, and you're going to need those, but you're also going to need to be able to go in and surgically remove these by identifying each individual attachment that you have in your mind, each individual craving. So identifying craving, desire, attachment is the second most important skill that you could develop on this path, next to meditation. Meditation is going to help you knock down the cravings, desires, attachments, but then you're going to need the ability to look at your own mind, be introspective, and to be able to actually eliminate them. So this is the second most important skill and ability that you could cultivate, because your teacher's not going to be with you all the time. You're going to need to be able to look inward and figure these things out for yourself. So as I mentioned, breathing mindfulness meditation is helping train the mind to let go. It's helping you to do that in general, but it's through identifying your cravings with right mindfulness and then applying right effort, which you guys should know what those mean now from our class yesterday, right? Outside of meditation, that is going to eliminate your cravings. So the breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity is kind of prepping the mind to make it willing to let go. But it's your mindfulness, your awareness of mind in your day-to-day life to be able to see your cravings and then apply right effort to cut it off and let it go and abandon it out of the mind, right? So the mental discipline section of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration from the Eightfold Path is all coming together to be able to help you eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, as well as that moral conduct section as well, okay? So what I suggest you do is you use the discontentedness that you experience as like the red light on the dashboard of your car. If you were driving a car and the red light came on the dashboard of the car, you'd be like, whoa, this car has a problem. Let me pull over because I'm not interested in continuing to drive this car. And if you have some skills, you'll probably pop the hood open and you'll start looking under the hood and kind of figure out what's going on with the car. If you don't have those skills, you'll probably take your car to an auto mechanic and say, hey, can you check out my car? Right? Because you use that red light to indicate that there's a problem in this car, where your discontentedness is the red light. When you're angry, when you're sad, when you're frustrated, when you're agitated, annoyed, any of these discontent feelings, embarrassed, shy, even the pleasant feelings, the conditioned pleasant feelings, this is like the red light flashing on the dashboard of your car saying, hey, you've got a craving, desire, attachment here, because it's impossible for you to become discontent if there isn't a craving, desire, attachment. So when you're discontent, there is some craving, desire, attachment in your mind. So that's the red light blinking on the dashboard of your car. And now you're going to need to look inward. That's popping open the hood and looking under the hood to see if you can find the problem. But if you can't find the problem, if you don't have the skills, you need to take your mind to the auto mechanic. The auto mechanic in this scenario is your teacher. You can go to your teacher and you say, hey, teacher, here's the situation. I went and visited my mom. My mom said this. My dad did this. My brothers and sisters were doing this. And I got angry and frustrated. And I can't even see what my cravings are. I'm trying to figure this out, but I don't really know. Can you help me? And then we kind of ask you a few questions, and then we figure out what were your cravings, desires, attachments. And when you do this 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times with your teacher, you'll eventually get really good at it and you won't need your teacher anymore. But this is how you build the skill to be able to look inward. Okay, so you're going to need to use the discontentedness as the red light on the dashboard of your car. And then you start looking inward to try to uncover what is your cravings, desires, attachments. And I'm going to give you some examples to help you see this. But first, let me walk you through this scenario and this process that you take in order to be able to identify these cravings and be able to eliminate them almost surgically. Okay? So whenever discontentedness occurs, if you notice that with your mindfulness, because that's what you're training to be able to do, is to have mindfulness, to be able to notice the discontentedness arise. In the moment, cut it off and let it go. Don't even think twice about it. If you can notice it as a bodily sensation, because that's the early warning system alerting you that your mind's about to become discontent. Remember, with anger, it's like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system that you have alerting you you're about to get angry. So the Buddha teaches you to cut it off and let it go there. That's ideal. But between now and the time that you develop that skill, you're not going to be able to cut it off every time as a bodily sensation. Sometime it's going to become a feeling. Now you're angry. Now you're frustrated. And remember, I gave you that advice to redirect the mind. So say you're like sitting there watching the news and you're noticing the bodily sensation of frustration starting to arise. Don't just sit there and dwell in that and allow the mind to become frustrated. Cut off the news, get up and redirect the mind, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, go wash your hands in the bathroom, go get a drink of water, redirect the mind. That's cutting it off and letting it go. So that's what you would like to do in the moment, whether it's a pleasant feeling, painful feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant. You need to be able to see the conditioned pleasant feelings as just as much a part of the problem. Remember, conditioned pleasant feelings. You can only be happy when this thing occurs. So mom calls you up, says, hey, I heard you got a new apartment. I'm going to come visit you. I'd like to come see you. You notice you start getting excited? Nope, cut that off. Because on Friday when she calls you up and she says, hey, I'm sorry, I can't come. I've had a change of plans. You'll be frustrated. You'll be angry. So when you notice you're getting so excited because mom's coming, no, cut that off. Don't let the mind do that. Be like, hey, mom, that'll be great. I'll be wonderful to see you. Hey, I'm going to get some food and we can make that special dish that you've been teaching me how to make. Let's do that recipe that we've been working on. And it's like, sweet, I'll see you, right? And then when she calls you on Friday and she's like, so sorry, I can't come. I've had these change of plans. No worries, mom. I understand. It's just impermanence. That's all it is. Something's changed. But if your mind craves permanence, you'll be frustrated when mom says she can't come. So when you're noticing the pleasant, the painful, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings arising, cut that off and let it go. That's in the moment. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, once the mind is calmed down and your mind's quite clear, which can take a few minutes, a few hours, maybe it can take longer, that's where you start looking inward. You move to step 2. You start reflecting. What was the craving here? What was the longing, yearning? Why did my mind become discontent? And you start looking inward. And there's usually more than one craving, desire, attachment in any given situation. In this situation with mom, maybe you really wanted to see mom. Maybe you really wanted to taste that food. Maybe you really wanted to show off and show her how successful you were. There was these longing, yearning, and craving. Maybe you wanted her to go tell your dad how accomplished you are. Maybe you wanted to show off in front of your brothers and sisters so mom would be so proud of you, right? There could be many different cravings in your mind, right? So you're going to need to look inward and be reflective and figure out what is your cravings, desires, attachments. What is the mind longing, yearning for? What is it expecting? What is it wanting? What is the craving for permanence? Then you're going to need to develop a plan that targets the specific craving, desire, attachment to be able to go in and eliminate it. Then you're going to need to repeat this process for each situation, each incident that you are experiencing discontentedness with. Okay, so now let me give you a real life example so you guys can see how this works. Okay, so one time I was driving down the street. I had my wife's car because at the time I didn't have one, and I was driving in my wife's truck, and I was at a stoplight. And I reached down to get my phone, my mobile phone, and I didn't have it with me. And I noticed this fear come up in the mind. And right away, I cut it off and let it go, right? Because I wasn't interested in the mind having that fear. Then as I'm sitting there at the traffic light, I'm like, what is the mind craving here, right? Because what the mind wanted to do was turn around and go get the phone. Because I was at a traffic light. I could have easily U-turned and went back home, would have been there in like 3 minutes and had the phone. And that's what the mind wanted to do, was go get the phone. So I was looking at the mind. I was like, what is the mind craving? There's some permanence that the mind wants. It's craving for that phone to be permanent, and I'm scared to be outside all alone. What if I have an accident and I need to call somebody? Wow, look at this fear that was coming up in the mind. So instead of going home to get the phone, which doesn't solve the problem, that's what people will typically do. They think that's going to solve the problem, to go get the phone. But the cause of the problem is inside your own mind. The problem isn't that I didn't have the phone. The problem is that the mind wanted the phone. They wanted the phone to be permanent. That was what was causing the fear. So going to get the phone wasn't going to solve the problem, because the very next time that I'm outside without the phone, the fear would be there again, right? So what I needed to do is train the mind to be outside without the phone. I needed to train the mind that this impermanence is okay, that sometimes I'm going to have my phone and sometimes I'm not. And that is just impermanence. That's all it is. So instead of turning around to get the phone, this plan that I put in place after reflecting and seeing that what was going on, the plan that I put in place is I was only supposed to be outside about an hour and a half that day, but I extended my plan. I stayed outside for like 5 or 6 hours. I went to the movies. I went and got some food. I did all kinds of stuff. I stayed outside. And then when I came home about 5 or 6 hours later, I didn't just run to go see the phone. I actually came home, maybe played with my son, watched TV or whatever it was that I did. And I just left the phone where it was for like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And then I went and checked out the phone. And I was like, all right, okay, I was outside for a day. It felt really weird. It felt awkward, but I did it. Right? So now I waited about 2 or 3 days and I went out again without the phone. I intentionally left the phone at home because I could see that the mind didn't like this and it was uncomfortable going outside without the phone. So I intentionally left it at home and then I went outside. No fear, but it felt weird. It felt awkward leaving the house without a phone. So now I, again, went out 5, 6, 8 hours for the day. And then when I came home, again, I just left the phone where it was, didn't go see it, waited 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and then I went and checked out the phone. And then I did it again about 5 days later. And the 5 days later, I was like, wow, this is completely fine. I was like, no uncomfortableness, no ickiness. It was completely fine. It was like no big deal going outside without the phone. I was like, wow, I think I've eliminated this craving. Just 2 times going outside alone without the phone, and it worked. And then the third time I was noticing, wow, the mind is free. There's no fear. There's no uncomfortableness. But about 2 months after that, I accidentally left the phone at home again. And I was driving down the road again, and I reached down to get my phone, and it wasn't there. And I was like, oh well, no phone. And I just kept going. No fear, no nothing. I was like, wow, I've really eliminated this craving. This is great. Well, a year after that, I dropped my phone, and the screen shattered. And I looked at the phone, and I started laughing. And I was like, yeah, of course it shattered. It's impermanent. Right? And fortunately, my wife had another phone that I could just use that phone instead because I didn't have the money to buy a new phone. But I could tell the mind wasn't discontent, because if I had a craving for this phone to be permanent, when the screen shattered, I would be upset. I'd be angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. But I just started laughing at it. I was like, of course it broke. It's impermanent, right? I just started laughing at it, right? So this is how you do it. You, in the moment, when you're noticing the discontent feeling arising, cut it off and let it go. Cut it off and let it go. Cut it off and let it go. Redirect the mind. Get that out of your mind. Don't even allow the feeling to come into the mind if you can. You're not suppressing the feeling. You're cutting it off before it becomes a feeling. Then you reflect. What am I craving here? What's the mind longing, yearning for? What's the expectation? What's the permanence that the mind is wanting? And then when you identify what that is, then you're going to need to put your mind in the situation, because that's the plan here that you're developing. You need to develop the plan. Okay? So the example that I just gave you with the phone, I was getting pleasant feelings whenever I had the phone with me. Right? When I had the phone with me, I had pleasant feelings. When I was away from the phone, I had painful feelings. Right? Because the mind wanted this phone to be permanent. So if there's something that you're getting pleasant feelings from, you're going to need to distance yourself from it in order to train your mind to let it go. Right? So anything you're getting pleasant feelings from, like say you go to a certain restaurant and every time you go there, they have the best chocolate cake ever. And you order that chocolate cake and boy, do you like that chocolate cake. And you get all these pleasant feelings from this chocolate cake. You're going to need to distance yourself from that for a period of time, maybe a few months, right? And that's going to train your mind to let it go. If there's anything in your life that you're getting conditioned pleasant feelings from, whereas if you have that thing, you get happy, but if you show up to the restaurant and they don't have it, boy, you're frustrated or annoyed, right? That's the craving, desire, attachment, the mind's longing, yearning. So you're going to need to distance yourself from that thing. If there's anything that you're getting painful feelings from, you're going to actually need to bring that into your life to be able to eliminate the craving, desire, attachment. So say, for example, that whenever I see a spider, I get scared and I don't want this spider around. I get fear and I get scared when I see these spiders and I want to push these spiders out of my life. Well, you're not going to get to enlightenment and the elimination of your craving by pushing this away, because that's the craving, that's the permanence that the mind is wanting, is I never want to see a spider, right? You're going to need to look at pictures of spiders, right? And now when you feel the fear coming up, you're going to need to cut that off and let it go. And now you might need to go to a museum where they have spiders preserved and you can see the little eyes, you can see the little hairs, and you can look at them and you feel the fear coming up and you cut that off and cut that off. But then you're going to need to go out into the real world, maybe at a pet store or in the woods or something where they have spiders. You're going to need to train your mind like, look at the spiders, no big deal. I'm not harming them. They're not harming me. I'm okay. Right? So you're going to need to bring in something. If you're averse to it and you get painful feelings when you have contact with that thing, you're going to need to desensitize the mind to that particular thing. Right? So anything that your mind is craving and longing, yearning for, and you're getting pleasant feelings from, you're going to need to distance yourself for a period of time, train your mind to let it go. And then ultimately you can eat the chocolate cake again. No problem. You're not causing any harm. Or ultimately you can use your mobile phone. No problem having a mobile phone, right? So these pleasant feelings that you're getting, you're only getting it when you have this thing. And the mind's craving for it to be permanent. And you're trying to show the mind, hey, you can be happy without it too. Right? This thing is impermanent. You can be happy without it. And then this thing that the mind's pushing away, and it feels like it can only be happy if you don't have that thing in your life, and you can only be happy that way. You're trying to include that in your life and say, no, you can be happy when you see spiders too. They're not going to hurt you. You don't have to be fearful. It's okay. Right? So this is how you train your mind, going in and surgically removing your cravings, desires, attachments. In some cases, you're going to distance your mind. In other cases, you're going to put your mind in the situation. So what I'm going to do is give you guys an opportunity to share, if you like, certain situations that you're having where maybe you are having craving, desire, attachment. You're noticing discontentedness. And maybe you would like to share that so that you can get help to see how to put together a plan. So if there's something that you're experiencing that you either have fear or anger or frustration or any of these other things, you can share that if you like, and I will help you. You could say, hey, David, here's the situation. Here's the discontentedness that I experience, and I have no idea how to put together a plan for this. Okay. That's fine. Maybe you don't even see what your cravings, desires, attachments are, and I'll help you with that. Or maybe you say, here's the situation, and here's what I think the cravings, desires, attachments are, but I don't know how to put together a plan. Okay, I'll help you with that. Or you might say, here's the situation, here's the cravings, desires, attachments, and here's the plan that I think I should put together, and then I'll help you with it. So if you guys would like to use this time, this will help you to build your skill to be able to look inward and put together these plans. So would anybody like to do this to be able to get help with developing a plan? Yeah, Gala. Is it Gala or Gala? Gala, that's what I was thinking, Gala. Galla. Gala.
Okay, I'm thinking of two situations. I'll just share one.
Okay.
With the phone example, I think if I forget my phone or if my phone stops working, I get uncomfortable because of my family back home. Because if I don't give signs of life in 24 hours, they get very worried.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to.
Okay, so your family is attached to you. That's why they're getting worried in that situation, right? You are not causing their worry. In their mind, they think if they can reach you and they can get in contact with you, she's permanent, she's here. And now their mind can be at ease to a certain degree. But if they can't contact you, now they're feeling anxiety and worry, right? So you need to understand that they're going to experience anxiety and worry sometimes. So your attachment to them not experiencing anxiety and worry is what's causing your mind to experience discontentedness. If your family has worry or anxiety, your mind doesn't like that because you want them to be permanently happy and permanently peaceful. But you need to understand that they're unenlightened. They're not going to experience that at this point in their life, right? So they're going to be worried. They're going to have anxiety from time to time. You continuing to be in contact with them constantly isn't going to produce peacefulness in their mind. It's just allowing their mind to continue to hold on. And one of the things you do as you're making your way to enlightenment is you see that people are attached to you, and you find ways to ensure that they aren't allowed to keep their attachment in their mind. So there's skillful things that you can do to help your family eliminate their attachment to you. And one of the things that you could do is not answer your phone sometimes. That would actually help you, but that's helping them. To help you, you need to eliminate your attachment to your family and wanting them to be permanently peaceful and permanently joyful. And if it's connected to the phone, then yes, going outside without the phone, like I described that I did, that's going to help you to get rid of your attachment to the phone and to them not being worried. But when we get to the point in the course, that class I'm going to teach you, I think it's on Thursday, I'm going to teach you how to eliminate attachment to those who are closest to you. It might be Wednesday afternoon, actually. There's something called contemplation of death, where you can actually sit and you can envision that your family members have died, because this is the biggest amount of impermanence that you'll experience in relationships. And this will help you to train your mind to let go of your family members. It usually takes multiple sessions, but you can train your mind to be at peace and at ease when your family members are dying. Sometimes people think that's the love that's causing that, grief or sadness or sorrow, but it's not. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting them to be permanent. So your mind is craving your family to be peaceful permanently, which isn't actually possible right now because their mind is unenlightened. So you're going to need to eliminate your attachment to the phone by doing the thing that I mentioned. And you're going to need to eliminate your attachment to your family members as well, which there's multiple things you can do. But one of the things you're going to hear me teach is something called contemplation of death. And that's going to help you to eliminate your attachment to your family. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's not a situation. I'm wondering, how can one have a goal and move towards a goal, or have a dream and move towards it if there is no craving, desire? Where would it come from?
Through wise decision making. Based on wise decision making. Like I have
that I would like to fulfill something like out of what?
Yeah, out of your interest and your goal. So like I have an interest to share these teachings with the entire world, just like the Buddha. I'm interested in seeing countless people get to enlightenment. But I don't have a craving, a longing, a yearning. I don't have a desire. I don't want it or expect it. Just day by day, I gradually share the teachings because I know through wise decision making, if you can get to enlightenment and other people can get to enlightenment, this would be the very best thing for you that has ever happened in your life. And it would be the very best thing for the world to be able to experience more and more beings in the world that are enlightened. So I'm just working towards that goal each day, moment by moment, making decisions to work towards that goal. But I don't get pleasant feelings when somebody does get to enlightenment who's learning with me. and I don't get painful feelings when somebody doesn't. Like say somebody learns with me for a year or 2 or 3, and then they decide they don't want to learn with me anymore. Okay, that's their choice. They are impermanent. They're not going to be learning with me permanently. Whereas if you have a craving, desire, attachment, you would get really happy. For example, in this example, when someone gets to enlightenment, and when somebody goes away from you as a student, you would have painful feelings. So you need to learn how to walk towards goals, objectives, or interests just through wise decision making and things that you're interested in accomplishing. Whereas if you're only working towards things based on craving, that'll burn out, right? Where you can be having what people call passion. People think that's a good quality, that they have this passion for something. Well, you'll work your way through that, and eventually it'll burn out and you'll be done, right? You might work on this thing for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years. Your craving, your passion will burn out, and then you won't be interested in it anymore, and you'll be off to something else. And in this pursuit of your craving, you can only be happy if you get what you want. Where when you're working towards things through wise decision making, you can be happy no matter what. Like when I first started teaching here, sometimes I would show up and there was nobody here, right? Because nobody knew I was teaching it. I just started, right? And now when I show up, of course, there's always people here whenever I'm teaching. But if I was craving to share these teachings and I showed up and people weren't here, I'd be frustrated, I'd be angry, I'd be annoyed, and maybe I'd lose my interest in doing this because I'm motivated out of wanting pleasant feelings. And if somebody's here, I get pleasant feelings. And if they're not here, I get painful feelings. And now that I'm not getting what I want, which is those pleasant feelings, I give up. Because there was a good period of time, maybe like 6 months to a year, where sporadically there were times where there wasn't anybody here. And I would have been demotivated to continue to go forward if all I was wanting was pleasant feelings. So if you're only working towards something because you want pleasant feelings, eventually you're going to get painful feelings because you're not going to always get what you want. And then you're going to be unmotivated to do that thing. So you need to learn how to be motivated, not based in craving, but based in wise decision making. And this is something the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do. So it needs to learn. And part of that learning process is to knock down your cravings so that the mind can come more to the middle and gradually work towards things and learn how to do that through wise decision making. And what you decide to do is going to be unique to you. Everybody's different. What are your goals? What are your interests? What are you looking to accomplish? Nobody can tell you. You guys have anything you'd like to do on this? Yeah? You have another one?
Yes, I'll share my second craving. So yesterday I noticed I was in theater practice, and at the end of the rehearsal, the director told me, "Gara, you did a great job today." Mm-hmm. And that made me very happy. And I could identify that was a problem because I was even distracted while riding on my motorbike. Mm-hmm.
That's where you can see conditioned pleasant feelings creates instability in the mind. And that's why you're not interested in allowing the mind to continue to do that, right? So what you would like to do is remain unaffected. When someone says, "Wow, you did a great job today," you might say, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate your kind words," or whatever you say. It's your personality, right? But your mind is stable and steady, right? You don't get all excited because now you go to another theater production, the director doesn't think you're doing a good job, and they say, "Wow, Gala, you could have really done better today. I don't feel like you did your best." And now you're really hurt. And that's your own mind that's causing that. So if you allow your mind to get those pleasant feelings in this situation, it's only a matter of time before some director doesn't give you that same glowing feedback. And now your mind's going to experience the painful feelings. So you'd like to, in the moment when someone's giving you that compliment, is cut off any conditioned pleasant feeling, where it's nice that this person's showing their enthusiasm about your work that you're doing, but you don't need to allow your mind to get to that instability and that conditioned pleasant feeling. Remain unaffected. The Buddha even talks about this in relationship to his work. He talked about how if somebody hates him and they think of him in negative ways, essentially. He says his mind is unaffected. And he says if somebody honors and respects him for the work that he does, he says his mind is unaffected by that, right? And that's what you would like to be able to get to, is where your mind's unaffected by praise, but it's also unaffected by degrading and diminishing things as well. And then you need to just decide what is it that you're going to do in this world, because if there's a certain director, for example, that was constantly berating you about your work, maybe it's better that you don't actually continue to be in that production, but you don't have any painful feelings about it. It's just like, oh, okay, this director's not pleased with what I'm doing. I'm trying my best. Each day they keep berating me. You know what? Maybe I'm just not going to be in this production. It's better that I just move on. But you can maintain your contentedness. You can maintain your joy, right? Whereas if you allow your mind to have the painful feelings, now it doesn't feel comfortable to experience that. So the real key here is to not allow the mind to have those pleasant feelings. So you're going to get this kind of feedback, right? So like in terms of like putting together a plan, let me back up here. In terms of putting together a plan, down here, number 3, you're not going to need to put together a plan, and you can't put that plan together to eliminate that particular craving. So this works in about 80 or 90% of the situations, but in other situations it still works. It's just that you're not going to be able to create a situation where people are constantly giving you positive feedback, right? You're going to need to just go through life, and as people are giving you positive feedback, recognize it for what it is. That's their opinion. Maybe thank them for their kind words, and then just maintain your calmness and stability in your mind. Mm-hmm. So by the way, once a teacher learns about your cravings, desires, attachments, don't be surprised if we start doing things that are going to help you. So you might hear me start complimenting you over time. Like, wow, Gayla, your smile is so beautiful, or something like this. And you're like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words. Or, wow, you always show up to class on time. That's so nice of you, right? So we might start doing things like this. So it gives your mind an opportunity to practice the teachings. And
mine goes a little bit on Gala or Gala's. But so my partner and I have been together for about 4 years. He's very acts of service, love language.
Just some impermanence in the microphone. That's all. Yeah. We have some more here, but you can grab another mic. If you can set that one aside, then we can change it. See, the Buddhist teachings even apply to modern technology. That's how smart he was.
So he's acts of service, and I'm very words of affirmation. And so when I provide acts of service for him, I want to hear like, good job, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard not to. And then his words are often, especially when he gets irritated and frustrated, he gets very sarcastic, and he'll say things like, "Oh, you're so kind," or "Oh, you're so mindful." Mm-hmm. And that really hurts me and creates a lot of just painful feelings within me. Okay. And it's hard to stay calm, right? Mm-hmm.
So it's important to know that his words aren't what's hurting you, right? It's your craving, expectation for him to communicate a certain way. And this is where people oftentimes, when they're studying some of the modern things that people are teaching out there, it's actually leading them astray, because oftentimes people teach you in a relationship to communicate to your partner what you want, what you expect, what are your boundaries. You know, you hear these kind of things all the time. Basically, this is like trying to teach somebody else of how you want them to interact with you. And they're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to meet your expectations 100% of the time, because that would be permanence. And then even if they were, your expectations are going to change, because you're going to change over time. And now you have to constantly be updating this person with new software about how to interact with you. And what the Buddha is teaching you to do is get rid of all that expectation. Get rid of that longing, yearning for your boyfriend to interact with you in a specific way, and train your mind to let it go. So this is another situation where you aren't going to be able to put together a specific plan because it's just going to happen. Your boyfriend's going to do these things, and you're going to need to train your mind to cut off and let go. If your boyfriend was learning with me too, I would be like, yeah, do some more of that stuff, right? That's going to really help you because it's going to train your mind to let go. But you need that breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity on board to train your mind to let go. And rather than think of it as, you are this way and he is that way, those are just cravings and expectations that you guys are having of each other. And it's going to stand in your way of having a very fulfilling and loving relationship because you're going to be discontent when he doesn't do things your way. And he's going to be discontent when you don't do things his way. And now it's going to drive a wedge between the two of you guys. Where if you just understand you're two separate people, you do things differently, and it's unwise to put expectations on each other and just enjoy the time that you spend with each other without expecting each other to be a certain way, this is going to lead to your peace and your joy. So this is another example where this one, going through this process of creating a goal or creating a specific plan isn't possible, but it's going to happen naturally. So you would still like to cut off and let go. Whenever he does things the way you typically like him to do it, and you're noticing pleasant feelings, cut that off and let it go. If he does things in the opposite way, that isn't what you typically prefer for him to do, cut that off and let it go too, the anger, the frustration. Because if you keep allowing your mind to do that, it's called favoring and opposing, or agreeable and disagreeable. You're having agreeable contact through your ears, and these words are agreeable to you, these sounds are agreeable, and you get happy. But now when you hear the disagreeable sounds, the mind experiences the painful feelings, and you like to get rid of this, where it's just sounds, and he's just choosing to function whichever way he likes, and you need to get to the point where you don't expect him to do it one way or the other, because he's impermanent, and he's not going to do it the same way permanently. Did you have something too? No? Okay.
Doesn't matter what kind of person is next to us.
That's
because you should simply cut everything and just be content with whoever is next to you. That's how it feels.
Yeah, that's not what I'm teaching, but I understand that you're thinking that way. What I'm teaching you to do is that not to form your feelings based on what you're experiencing externally, because you're not going to experience everything that you want, everything you expect. Not everybody's going to function the way you want them to function. As you heard me sharing with Youssef, or maybe you were out of the room, I'm not sure, he was asking me about, one of the teachings of the Buddha is having wholesome friends and wholesome people around you. That's part of the path, is making sure that you cultivate relationships of people that are doing things wholesome. But you're not going to get to enlightenment by creating a bubble and having people in your bubble that do things your way. Because as soon as somebody comes from outside your bubble, all of a sudden you're discontent. So you need to choose wisely of who to include in your life. But you're going to have imperfect beings in your life. Just like you are imperfect, you're going to have imperfect beings in your life. They're not going to do things according to you. Because in your mind, you have certain expectations of how you want people to function, and nobody functions that way. It's only you that functions that way. So if you can only be peaceful and joyful around people who do things your way, then it's only you that you can hang out with. You can't hang out with other people. So you would like to get to the point where even though someone is saying or doing things opposite of the way you would do it, you can still be content and peaceful in that situation, and then make wise choices of who to involve in your life based on the natural laws. So for example, if somebody, let's just say I was growing up as a child and I had a friend since I was 8 years old. We were always friends all the way through life. And now at the age of 18, let's just say this friend decides they're going to start selling drugs, illicit drugs. Well, if I didn't understand these teachings, I might still continue to be friends with this person. And now 20, 22 years old, we're walking down the street, some rival drug dealer starts shooting at this person, and then the bullets hit me and I'm dead. Right? And this is my unwise decisions to associate with this person. This is my unwholesome karma coming to me. But if I understand these natural laws, at the age of 18, when this person starts to sell illicit drugs, and I'm not attached to this person, I can let go. I can move on and realize, hey, I'm not going to judge this person. I'm not going to look down on them. I'm not going to tell them what they should or shouldn't be doing with their life. That's their life and that's their decisions. But I just know it's unwise for me to hang out with a drug dealer. So I'm going to just kind of move away from this relationship. And this would be a wise choice. So in this situation, if your mind isn't attached, you can move away and maintain your contentedness. But if you're attached to the relationship, you'll find it very hard to step away from the relationship. So you still need to include people in your life that are doing wholesome things, but not form your feelings based on those things. But in some situations, like a drug dealer, yeah, you need to move away from that. But if somebody just isn't speaking to you in the way that your mind expects, like you want them to say this, but they're saying this, you need to be able to train your mind to get over that and not have the expectation that everybody will treat you a certain way.
And does it also apply if that drug dealer is your child?
Oh, if it's my son or my, would I move away from that person? So the Buddha teaches if somebody is if you have a child, he teaches you your role as a parent is to restrain this being from evil, right? So what that means is that you're guiding your child in order to make wise decisions and learning how to make wise decisions based on the natural laws. So like, let's just say, I know that my son won't do this, but let's just say at age 18, he did start to sell drugs. I would sit down with him. I would talk with him. I'd help him understand how unwise this is and what it's going to lead to in his life, and guide him towards making wise decisions. When the Buddha talks about restraining a child from evil, it's not like physical restraint. It's about help them to cultivate wisdom, help them to understand their unwise decision making and guiding them towards wiser decisions. So if my child started making unwise decisions, which he surely has at different times in his life, then I've guided him to make wiser decisions. And then you can see them starting to make those wiser decisions and improving. So my role in my child's life is different than a friend. This friend, we're just friends. My role is not to teach this person and guide this person in life. We're just friends. But my child, I have a responsibility to guide this being to become a better and better being. So I function differently in the relationship.
I also have a question about meeting a person, for example, a friend, and you feel, I don't know, good, excited about someone new coming into your life, and do you need to push them away or actually develop some meaningful relationship? How do you?
If you're noticing that you're getting really excited with this new person in your life, that's a craving, desire, attachment that's forming. What would be wise is to put more distance between your contact. So rather than like see them every other day or every 3 days, start spreading it out like once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks that you have contact with this person, that you don't have so much consistent contact with them. And then when your mind has let go of your craving, desire, attachment, then you'll be able to have a regular relationship where you don't have to pay as much attention to how much contact you have. And then you can also do reflection on death, which I'm going to teach you guys when we get to that particular class in this course. That's going to help you train your mind to let go. So you don't have to completely leave the relationship. You need to learn how to let go of the attachment. And now you can learn how to have a relationship with non-attachment. There's a way to have relationships with non-attachment. When people hear me say non-attachment in relationships, they think that you're either in a relationship or you're not in a relationship. That's like the black and white that the unenlightened mind has. But there's this middle way where you can have a relationship without attachment. And what that means is that you're not forming your feelings based on whether this person's in your life or not, or based on the contact that you're having with this person. That's what it means to have non-attachment. It doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship. It just means that you don't form your feelings based on the relationship.
But in reality, let's say you meet someone and you say, okay, I'll see you in a month, or how? Really, I don't get it. Or should you be honest and say, I do not want to create an attachment to you, so my choice is not to see you for 2 weeks, and then maybe we can hang out for 30 minutes.
if I was you, I wouldn't give it a time frame, because as soon as you say, I'll see you in 2 weeks, now the mind's longing, yearning for the 2 weeks. Instead, you just choose to come in and out of people's life. You don't have to have this definitive thing like, I will see you in 2 weeks, or I will see you in a month. Whether you tell them that you're attached to them or you're noticing an attachment and you don't want to be attached, that's a personal decision for you. I've never had that type of conversation with somebody before. I have never needed to, because all the work that you're doing is internal. You don't need to tell this person anything, because it's your work that you're doing within your own mind, and it's you making the choices. And oftentimes if you tell someone like, hey, I want to go away from this relationship, they're going to grab on tighter because they don't want the relationship to end. So it's better for you to just make the decisions that are best for your own mind. And then you just kind of come in and out of spending time with this person as you need to. Sometimes people think that, seeing each other every day or talking to each other on a certain schedule, this defines that we are now friends and we are now close. But this is just the mind grabbing on. If you're having a relationship with non-attachment, you should be able to see each other when you see each other, and each other is completely fine. There isn't this contingency or this dependency that we have to see each other or talk to each other on a certain frequency, and that means we're friends. Instead, we should be able to come and go in and out of each other's life however we like. Shouldn't be any definition around that kind of things. As soon as you try to lock that down, that's the attachment. That's the craving that the mind's having. And I realize the things that I'm sharing with you, by the way, are very different than the way you think right now and the way that you operate right now. I realize that. And that's the whole reason why your mind experiences certain difficulties and struggles in certain situations. So when you're learning these kinds of things, it's great that you're asking questions, because that's what's going to help you. Because me just sharing these things, oftentimes people aren't going to get it right away. So the more that you ask questions, the more you think about it, the more you implement what I'm sharing, you'll be able to see how it works. And it's very different than what people are used to. They're not used to functioning the way that I'm talking about. But that's why people have so many struggles in their relationships, because they don't understand these things. So it's very different than what you're potentially doing right now.
About friends, it seems like I came to some point in life that actually that's how it happens. I don't create attachment. Mm-hmm. But for me, it seems like I'm just running away.
That you're what?
I'm running away from some deep connection that actually I'm craving for, because it seems like I'm alone.
Yeah. So that deep connection that you're talking about, that's the attachment that the mind's trying to form. And now when you form that deep attachment, you'll be happy and excited for a while, but then you're going to get angry and frustrated, and ultimately this relationship's going to be over, because you're going to get angry, you're going to push this person away, you're going to be frustrated or irritated or annoyed, or you're going to put your expectations on this person and try to control them, and they're going to be doing the same things to you. So allowing an attachment to form in a relationship is essentially like the death of that relationship. That relationship's going to most likely come to an end, because it's going to have difficulties. As long as you have attachment in a relationship, that deep connection that you're talking about, there's going to be discontentedness. And then you guys are going to start blaming each other for your anger and your frustration. So what you learn is how detrimental craving, desire, attachment is in a relationship. And you need to experience a relationship where there isn't craving, desire, attachment. You may not have ever experienced a relationship yet where there wasn't craving, desire, attachment. You don't know how that feels, and it feels foreign to you. But when you learn and you see how peaceful that is to be in a relationship where there is no attachment, you'll be like, wow, this is so much more wonderful. So your mind needs to experience it and know that it's better than what you're currently experiencing.
Just it seems like I don't value this kind of relationship.
I don't what?
Value.
I don't value them, right? So this is where your mind needs to see the wisdom behind what a real healthy relationship looks like. A real healthy relationship isn't where we're constantly attached to each other, we're basing our feelings on each other, we're all emotional and upset and frustrated with each other. That's not a healthy relationship. And while you have those kinds of relationships now, you can move your mind in the relationship to a better ground, but you need the wisdom of how to do that and be able to see like, wow, it feels so much better when people aren't tugging and pulling at me, right? Because if you have like, say, 5, 10, 15 friends that are attached to you and they're tugging and pulling you in all these different directions, you're going to be very uncomfortable in that situation. And you're going to be tugging and pulling on them too. And now everybody's all bound up with each other. But when everybody's free and you don't have attachment, wow, you can do so many things. It's so comfortable. Like for me, like I support thousands of students all over the world. But you notice my phone doesn't ring constantly. Right? It's not going off all the time. And sure, there's people messaging me that there's messages there waiting for me to be able to answer them. But let's just say I didn't answer them for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. They're not going to be angry with me because they've learned to not be attached. Right? Whereas if you have friends that every time they message you, you message them right back, their mind gets attached and holding on to you. And if you don't message them back within a couple of hours or a couple of days, they're angry at you. And now they're blaming you for their anger. Right? And this is the relationship will be all bound up. And now you can't move without people around you getting angry or tugging and pulling at you. And you need to be able to learn how to have these healthy relationships where people aren't tugging and pulling at you in different directions. And that's where you'll be able to get to more and more peace. And your friends will be at peace as well because their mind isn't experiencing the discontentedness. As I mentioned, I know that this is very different than what you're used to. I understand. Yeah.
So I have another question, and it's family. So I've been abroad for about 6 years now, and in that time, I've had 6 nieces be born back home, and that makes me feel like guilty and sad that I'm not in their lives. Mm-hmm. And my siblings definitely make me feel that way too. I want to go back and visit them often, but it's expensive, to go back to the U.S. Regularly, and time consuming, and all of that, and work doesn't always allow it, and many other things. And so I think that the contemplation on death is what you're going to recommend, which hopefully we'll do that tomorrow. You said Wednesday afternoon. But yeah, I guess just overcoming that like guilt and sadness, and like my dad isn't doing very well. And so there's this like want and desire to go back and be with him and, take care of him.
Yeah. So this is the craving and attachment to your family and wanting to be there for certain things, right? And one of the things you said is my siblings make me feel that way too. It's important to see that they're not making you feel that way, right? That guilt and that shame is coming from your own mind. Now, maybe on their side, they're like, oh, we really wish you were here. Like, why aren't you here? It would have been so much better if you were here. That's their craving and that's their attachment. If you allow your mind to adopt that, now you're going to experience that guilt and shame, but it's not them that's causing you to do that. It's your own mind that's doing that. So yeah, the contemplation of death is going to help you to do that. But actually, even being here, like the way you are, being abroad for 6 years, that's helping you too, because you're away, you're distancing yourself from the things that your mind is holding on to. So like when I left 10 years ago from the USA, I gave my family a countdown. I told them probably 3 years, 5 years before I left, I was like, hey guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to be leaving the US. And when I leave, I'm not coming back, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a new baby, whether it's a graduation, even a funeral, I'm not coming back for all these different things. If you'd like to come see me, let me know, and we'll spend time together. And, I gave them the 3 year, the 2 year, the 1 year, the 6 months, the 3 months, the 2 weeks. I was like, hey guys, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, right? So I gave them plenty of opportunity to extinguish whatever craving they had. So when I left from the US, not for any particular reason, but I didn't even talk to my family for a good, maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years when I first left from the US, I just didn't have a need to talk to them, right? And they were completely fine. Nobody was pulling me. Even when my mom died in 2017, she called me on her deathbed and she said, "Hey, I'm going to be dying in a week. The doctor gave me a week to die. I'm going to be dying." And I was like, "Oh, Mom, that's unfortunate, but thank you for calling me. Thank you for everything you ever did as a mom. I really appreciate that." She's like, "I'm so sorry." But, we had our final conversation, whatever. And she said, "I guess you're not going to be coming to the funeral, right?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I shared before I left. I'm not going to be coming back for those things." She said, "Yeah, I understand. No worries. Take care. I love you." And I was like, "I love you too. Be in peace," or whatever we said. So you can get to the point where your mind isn't feeling guilty or shameful about these things, but you need to train your mind to let go. I had already let go. In my early 20s, I did the reflection on death for my mom and my grandmother. So my mind had already let go. I wasn't attached to them. So then when I got to 20 years later, where my mom was actually dying, I wasn't grieving. I wasn't sad. I wasn't sorrowful. Not because I don't love her, but because I wasn't attached to her. Obviously, I had love for my mom. I just wasn't attached. And this is where you can see that it's not love that causes sorrow and grief and displeasure. So your mind needs to learn the Eightfold Path. You weren't here yesterday, I don't think. So you're going to need to learn that. It was recorded, so you could actually learn it online. And I teach it all the time. I'm teaching this Sunday and next Sunday. If you're around, I'm going to be teaching it then. And I'm also live streaming those. So you can learn these teachings if you like, because continuing to experience these types of feelings, it's no fun. But your mind doesn't have the wisdom of how to eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing it. So what I'm doing here is I'm going in, I'm talking about something very targeted. But yesterday I talked about a more general training that an individual needs to start with that first. And that's where you're normally starting. Mm-hmm. No more questions? Okay. We had a question online, but I see the person left. So they're not here. So I'm not going to answer that anymore since that was in Zoom. I don't see anything in YouTube. Let me see about Facebook. And I don't see anything in Facebook. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is in class here for this particular class, it's basically about 15 minutes to 12. We could take a lunch and come back and I could teach you the Brahma Viharas. Or I could teach it to you before lunch and we can just finish class, because it'll probably take me all of about 20 or 30 minutes to teach it to you. And then we can just finish up for the day if you guys would like to do that. I see you guys shaking your heads. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. I just need to reset the live stream stuff. So let's take like a little 15-minute break until maybe like 5 minutes after 12. And then I'll restart there and I'll just teach you for 20, 30 minutes and then we'll be done by about 12:30. Okay. All right. So enjoy your break. All right.